first of all, I'd like to say thanks to G for doing this all spring and summer, man. At the start of quarantine, when all this started happening, I knew I'd have to do something to study special teams, and improve somehow. And these team talks really got me through it. So I appreciate you giving us this outlet, G, especially, when I was living in Tennessee and coaching before I came to Marshall. Every spring I'd go out and, talk to some special teams coaches, and I got to hit a lot of SEC schools, which is an awesome experience to just learn ball. But, when that ability was taken away, this really filled in that gap. So I appreciate that. Also, before I get into anything, I have to thank Coach Hankins and the phenomenal staff here we have at Marshall for allowing me to do this call. Coach Hankins is one of the best special teams coordinators I know, and to learn from him and a coaching legend like Doc Holliday has been such a fantastic experience for me. What we're going to get into today is some kickers and some punts and work, man. And, especially for me in this call, it's really about what we can provide as coaches. I didn't really want to make it about the kickers and punters. I'll definitely list some fundamentals for you guys that'll definitely help you. But, this is more for what you can do to help out your specialists be the best version of themselves. So give me 1 sec to pull my PowerPoint here. There we go. You guys see that? Good stuff. All right. Like I said, I'm going to give you things that you guys should be focusing on and common errors that specialists make, so you can spot those things. I know a lot of us are QCs or analysts, so even a coordinator can watch this and figure out ways to help his specialist. All right, I'll start with field goal, and there's going to be a lot of stuff with field goal. So if you're a punt guy, hang in there with me. All right, but yeah, there's my contact info. If you guys ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. But I'm going to give you a fundamental outline of what good kicking and punting looks like. All right, and then I'll also list those common errors. When we talk about this technique stuff, right? I'm going to give you a background so that a head coach can say, ask you, why does he keep missing this kick? And you don't look at him and say, your guess is as good as mine, coach, or I don't know, I think it's his foot. Now, in no way am I an expert. And I'm saying this is exactly what's happening if he's doing this, right? However, I do take pride in being an insatiable learner. The old coach's saying is, when you think you know it all, you're doomed to fail. And I truly believe that. So you can guarantee, though, if there's something out there in kicking and punting, I've, kind of done my research on this stuff. And that's kind of what I put into my book. So, I really want to bring that to you guys. Every specialist is different, right? And that's this, you'll hear specialists and coaches say that. But I believe just like golf, all right, even everyone has their own swing, there are fundamentals you can get back to. And if you guys have any questions or need anything as I'm going, man, just, write in a message or let me know. But let's see. So how do great special teams coaches help specialists, all right? Let's talk about NFL special teams coordinators for a second, all right? I did a study. Out of all 32 NFL special teams coordinator, only one single one was a specialist himself. Darren Simmons of the Bengals. And, he worked with Shane Graham. He had a lot of success, and he's still with the Bengals. Now, these guys are the 32 most intellectual guys when it comes to teams in this profession. And I'm not saying they don't know a lot when it comes to specialists, but they must be pretty smart, right? How'd they get so well informed? All right, well, two things. They use their eyes, all right, and they observe what was going around. Also, they surround themselves with great specialists, all right, swing coaches. They ask questions, and which I know all you guys are doing because you're here, As far as what role we can play, All right. I love Randy Brown. He's a special teams coach for the Ravens. All right. And, he's arguably had one of the best collections of specialists. You got Justin Tucker, the kicker, Sam Cook, the punter, and Morgan Cox, their long snapper. And he was talking about this on the fourth down experience. He says, I'm like a caddy in golf on his roll. His eyes are focused on three things, all right? Either it's field goal, punt, or kickoff, he focuses on minimal amounts of things, which is getting the plant foot in the same spot every time, foot to ball contact the same every time, and your starting spot in the same location every time. If a kicker can do that, or a punter or a kickoff guy can do that, all right, and he's hitting end over end balls straight 90% of the time, whatever he's doing is working, all right? If he's not doing that right, then fix his plant, fix his foot to ball contact, and fix his follow through, all right? It's one of those three things. Let's not make it harder than it has to be, all right? I'm going to be throwing a lot of stuff at you guys today. If that's all you get from this, make sure you work on that with your specialist. Minimize everything, all right? And I'm not even saying you have to teach them anything. Most of the time, once we get to college, your specialists know what their swing looks like, all right? But where we can help as coaches is say, all right, we can watch their kick 5 times, all right, and we can notice, all right, his plant foot ends up in this certain spot, and if it's a little bit off, you let him know that, okay? It's a little back, it's a little in front. He's not going to know because he's not watching his plant foot, all right? That immediate recognition is huge to helping him make a change going forward. Okay, for example, I played at Lincoln University. It's a D2. It's the first HBCU in the United States, and I was there for the first 2 years of my career. And I was forever grateful for that opportunity. But as coaches at small schools know, and you guys might be at a smaller school, you don't have this 20-man staff, right? That some FBS schools say, and will have. So for me, I had a problem with, if this is the ball and this is my plant foot, right? Your plant foot should always be facing directly at the goalpost, right? Well, my plant foot was angled in to the right, and I was pushing everything to the right, and I couldn't figure it out because I didn't have a camera on my, a camera that's focused in on the contact spot. I didn't really have anyone watching, or they were too busy helping with scheme and protection. And so I really struggled all year to make an adjustment, just because of the fact that, there was no one to help me with that. I came home, worked with my swing coach, and I fixed it in a day or two like that. But if I had someone with me, that problem would have been solved right away, all right? Or someone who just could know little details. Coaches will say, and it's even in the pros, veterans can't use help. That's not true. Everyone can use help, right? Even in the NFL, you can help them with little things like wind conditions, all right? They might look at you and say, hey, where do we want to hit this ball? Where do we want to punt this ball? Or what type of ball do we want to hit, all right? That's what we're doing. We are helping them with the uncontrollables, things they don't want to be thinking about. They want to be involved in their form, right? They don't want to be worrying about outside distractions, and that's where we come in. That's what we do. And then at the end of the day, we're really there for moral support and building up their confidence, right? Everyone loves to be patted on the back when they're doing the right thing, all right? And that's what we're specialists are a rare breed. They don't really vibe off, getting torn down, something like that. So, we're there to build them up, okay? And I know, like I said, you guys are here. You understand the importance of specialists and special teams. I love that quote Coach DePrado brought up. It was when he was talking on the teams talking. He said 49% of yardage in a game is from special teams. I mean, that's huge, right? And we had Ben Larson, who was at UT Martin with us, and he had a stat from when he was at Texas. He said 90% of the time you block a punt, you win the game. All right, so that's huge. I just talked to Alan Tucker, who is an analyst at Mississippi State, and he was saying he did a study in the SEC where he was looking at how many teams use starters on their punt and punt return units. Okay, Mississippi State only had 6. Texas A&M and Alabama used at least 12 starters, and those teams won significantly more than teams that did not use starters on those units. So that's a huge difference, and it really relates to, wins and losses, and that's important. As far as specialists, right? Your specialist is the quarterback. He runs your special teams unit. All right. You can have this fantastic scheme. You can have great protection, right? A well-coached front line, a shield that's impenetrable, cover guys that, fly down the field. But if your punter has horrible fundamentals, you're hitting 38 yards a punt and you're last in the conference. Okay. So that's why it's important to coach these guys up and help them out. Okay. Won't get too deep into off-season and in-season practice schedules, but here's just a template, and this is something that I used when I was playing. I want to show you guys that there's so much more that specialists can be doing than just kicking balls. Right? There's so many other workouts, core, any type of P90X or Pilates that you can get your guys to do. I think preparation is huge. I would get in almost an hour to hour and a half before practice and just make sure they're doing the little things to get their body right, because it's such a quick explosive motion. All right, if you're not doing the necessary things, like in your drops, and Bradley Pinion was on the fourth down experience, and he was talking about he did 200 drops a day. You say that to your specialist and they'll roll their eyes, or they'll laugh at you, but that's what it takes to make it to the next level. If you really want to be consistent, that's something you can do without wearing out your leg as a specialist. Okay. And the sign of a great specialist really is not about their farthest ball. It's about how long can they replicate their A ball, all right, and maintain during the season. You'll get guys that are hitting kickoffs 10 yards deep in fall camp. You'll get to week 8, and they're sitting about the 7 or the 12. Okay. So this is to me, one of the most important things is to be able to maintain strength. And I'll kind of just breeze through this. All right. But there's some preventative stuff that you can really do to really strengthen your body as a specialist. That's not just kicking. All right. Let's get into field goals. All right, I can, and I'd love to get super deep with you guys here and just start talking about different body alignments and contact points and breathing methods and visualizations. The first thing we have to do is line up, all right? And should be the easiest thing to do, but a lot of specialists take that for granted, all right? Especially on field goal. I was talking about this, I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago. At the end of the day, however far back your steps are back and over, it's got to be the exact same every time. If your specialist is off by 3 inches, all right, that's going to change the point where they strike the ball, where they make contact with the ball, and where they fall through at, all right, and it could result in a miss. Now, I'm going to bring up David Akers because he's someone I really look up to as far as he's been so helpful. He's a master of his craft, right? When we're talking about taking your steps back, okay, he's 5'10", about 5'11" on a good day. His son's about 6'3", all right? It varies as far as where your specialist feels comfortable at. I have 7 to 7.5 feet back, but Dave's at about 7.5, and his son's at 7, even though he's 5 inches taller. I don't think you ever really want to be past 7.5 to 8. But like I said, personal preference and how long your legs are, it doesn't always correlate. But the farther away you are, the more mistakes you can cause. So the tighter, the better when you're taking those steps back. So real quick, we're going to have the right foot directly behind the ball, the left foot up next to the ball before we start taking our steps. The instep of the left foot is your plant foot. It's going to be lined up with the ball. Then you're going to take 3 steps back. 1, 2, 3, starting with your right foot. All right. Now, another one of my influences, all right, that I love learning from, Shane Graham, who's on the Teams Talk, man. He did a fantastic job. Yeah, he talks about falling in love with the process. Well, what is the process, all right? what Shane says, it's your approach and steps before you even strike the ball. For your specialists to get too, antsy and anxious before they get on the field, part of that is just really buying into your whole process and your approach and being consumed with that. Shane said he'd be taking the steps back. He would be hearing music in his head as he took his steps, and he was so involved in his process, he didn't hear any outside distractions. All right, to me that was huge. A lot of people have mental cues and verbal cues, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So boom, we got our 3 steps. We take our 3 steps back, right? You line up your kicking leg with the ball. And there's different types of, visualizations you can use. I don't know if you guys ever played that iPhone game where you're, shooting the field goals and there's a yellow line that goes out of your foot. That's what I used to imagine when I was kicking. I'd be taking my steps back, but visualizing this huge yellow arc going at the top of the goalpost, all right? Something else you can use, one of my kicking coaches, Armin Tarigan, used to take the bottom of the crossbar and place it on the top, all right, and envision himself kicking the ball over the top. And then also it's aiming points, right? We always tell our specialists, aim small, miss small. So find a light pole behind your goalpost. Find the eye in time on your scoreboard. Okay, something that's very small and specific. It can give your specialist an aiming point to focus on. All right. I'm not saying that they have to use these, okay, but I want them going into their game, their kick, with a plan in mind. It's not to get them to overthink. It's something that they can rep and practice, and that way they're comfortable with. Now, as a coach, something you can focus on, right? Have them one day at the start of practice, take their steps back and over, okay? Place a piece of tape down where they end their steps back, right? And then take their 2 steps over, place another piece of tape down. Have them do it 10 to 15, 20 times, all right? And just do a dry run. A dry run is where you don't strike the ball, but you go through your steps full board, all right? You'll notice that there will be differences in their steps, all right? They really have to get consistent at taking the same steps every time. That's a common problem, that if it's not fixed, it can result in a lot of struggle, especially from the hashes. All right. When we're talking about that visualization, real quick, I'm going to get into a visualization thing that I used to do. And me and Shane also talked about something like this is being prepared the night before a game. So, for example, we played Ole Miss my senior year, and I was the punter. And before I even got in that game, I never played an SEC opponent before. You can bet I was, feeling it. I mean, I had a rough time sleeping that before, but what I really did was I replayed and I played out how the game was going to go the next day. So I saw myself walking into the locker room, right, with my jacket on. I saw our prayer at midfield. I saw myself coming back in, putting my cleats on, getting ready for warm-ups. I visualized, hitting bombs and warm-ups. I saw AJ Brown back there getting ready to return the ball. I pictured myself failing, okay, and then responding to that failure and having even more success. The reason I did that is because when I finally got out there onto that field, it didn't feel like I'd never been there before. It felt like I'd been there 10 times before the night before, because I played it over and over again in my mind. Having a visualization method will definitely help them calm their nerves, especially a young guy, and be prepared for the situation at hand. All right. So boom, as we're taking our steps back, all right, we're making sure we're lining everything up. And they're using one of those visualization methods, right? They come back set with both feet together, and then they're going to take their lateral steps. Okay. Look, I'm not saying they have to hold their arm out to keep that 90-degree angle, but especially if you have a young guy, allow him to do that. Okay. When he gets older, does he have to keep his arm held out? No. But what a lot of guys will struggle with, another common area, is that they cheat their angle over. Everything we do in kicking is linear. All right. So if it's not a perfect 90-degree angle with those 2 steps over, okay, he's going to compromise the steps. All right. really make sure you can have him take his steps and just stand across from him. What right-footed kickers tend to do from the left hash is they'll cheat and they'll take an 80-degree angle over, a little bit more acute, because they don't realize it just looks different from that angle. They don't realize they're cheating themselves, and that can result in a missed kick. So that's something you can look for when they're taking those lateral steps over. All right. And then again, aim and height. As they're getting set back there, they should make sure they have laser-like focus. Right, you can see it in their eyes, and they're really focused on the goal at hand. I'm going to show you guys a clip. Let me see. Of Jason Myers, who I think has one of the best form in the NFL. I mean, he's just so crisp. All right, on him taking the steps back and his approach to the ball. Let's see. I'll kind of just talk over it. All right, let's talk about his starting stance here. Okay, I don't overcoach starting stance, but I always say NKT, nipples over knees over toes. All right, you're in an aggressive stance, but you're not falling forward. All right, you see his balance, his eyes are down on that contact point. All right, and his feet are facing where his plant foot's going to go. Your plant foot is going to be about a foot away from the ball itself. Okay. Like I said, I don't really overcoach it, but I do have a mental or physical cue that I use when I get back there. Okay, my mental or physical cue can be something like a rotation or a tap that lets your body know, all right, it's go time. I'm ready to go attack this ball. All right, and it gets your mentality right. Um, as far as a mental cue, I'll let myself know, ankle locked out or wide plant. All right. Shane and David had things like smooth or get through the ball, which means they really want to fall through directly at their target. All right. I had one thing that I was focused on that when I, was out there, it gave me something to lock in on where my mind wasn't in the cloud, just thinking about everything else. Sometimes, and I would do this in practice, but also in pregame, I'd have 3 or 4 different mental cues in my mind. You know, um, balance to the ball, lock the ankle out, wide plant, follow through, and I'd be thinking about those in pregame. Um, and then I'd try them out during pregame, see which one worked best for me, and that was the one I went with that day. All right. But before you even start your approach, your eyes are locked onto that spot. All right. You're thinking of your mental cue. You peek up one time at the goalpost, see yourself striking the ball over the top using one of those visualization methods we just talked about, and your eyes go right back down. Another thing I don't like is seeing kickers look up and down, up and down, up and down. All right. Their mind's whirring. They're thinking about all these different things they could be hitting. All right. I want them focused right on that contact spot. All right. Here's another thing that specialists, a common error that you can look for. All right. Jason Myers is pretty good about this, but you'll notice he might start a little tall and then fall forward. Right. And that's going to be natural a little bit when you're going to attack the ball. But on your approach, all right, on your specialist's approach, make sure he's not starting directly straight up and then falling forward. If he's going to stay straight up the whole time, which I think he needs a little bit of an aggressive lean, okay, that's fine. If his eye level isn't changing, that's fine. However, if he's starting tall and then falling forward, all right, that's bad for 2 reasons. One, he's going to be unbalanced, right? And 2, it's just like baseball. As a hitter in baseball, all right, I had a tendency to load, my head would go up, and then put that front foot back down and sink. All right. And it was a hard time hitting a baseball, nonetheless, that was moving while my head was moving. Right. Same thing for kicking. Okay. If your head is bobbing up and down, your eye level is bobbing up and down, it's going to be pretty dang hard to hit that small sweet spot, which we're going to talk about in a second here. All right. So before you even start your approach, eyes are locked in. That sweet spot, let me go back to the PowerPoint real quick. That sweet spot is about a third of the way up on the ball. There it is there in the bottom right corner there. See, you put a piece of tape on there. It's aligned with that, the white stripe on a college ball, right, or a Wilson ball. But that is the sweet spot where they're looking at. They're looking at that inside panel on that ball, okay? We're going to talk real quick about three-step versus two-step approaches, all right? You might say, what's a three-step approach? All right, three-step is jab, 1, 2, all right? And your jab for a specialist is just a pick up, put down, right in that same exact spot, all right? They're in the middle of their feet. They're not on their toes. They're not falling forward, okay? I like the three-step because I like how it handles a bad snap, right? If you get a bad snap, you can balance on that front foot and then still attack with those last two steps, all right? If you, yeah, I'm a little bit shorter, all right? So I need the most momentum I can get to hit a good ball, okay? The downside is, like Brett Kern talked about in the fourth down experience, if you have a big jab, all right, there's a chance of failure there, all right? He's talking about Ryan Suckup, who's with him at the Titans, all right? He said his jab step was all over the place. Sometimes it'd be 6 inches, and other times it'd be a foot to a foot and a half, all right? So that's something you can watch for on your specialist. How big is their jab? Is it the same every time, okay? Guys like Robbie Gould have taken that out of their swing, just been a two-step guy and had a lot of success there, okay? Again, if you're having, I don't think it's that big of a problem. For me, I would always just really make sure it's a pick up, put down thing. And if your specialist is struggling with that, make him do a full step dry run drill where he's just same thing. You're putting tape down on the spot where he should be picking up his foot and putting it back down as far as the jab, and then going through his full swing. And just get used to that feeling of picking up and putting down, picking up and putting down. Have him do 20 reps before he actually does his full swing. All right, small jab and make it replicable. Do it every time. All right, for a two-step's good because it's got fewer moving parts, all right, which means the kicker has less of a chance of compromising his kick, all right, which means bringing his chest down as he approaches the ball or sitting down with his hips at contact, all right. However, you'll have a faster operation time. You get a bad snap, you're caught, all right, because it's only 2 steps. So you got 1 step now, you might be from 45, 42 yards, and you've got a 1 step, a ball, which isn't bad as a drill. That's something you might want to work on. However, it can be tough in a game situation when everything's bullets are flying, all right? Kicking is everything as far as timing. Timing is everything, my bad. If your timing gets screwed up, it's going to be tough to make that kick, all right? So that's why two-step can be a little bit of a struggle, all right? But on the approach to the ball, all right, this is something I really love that David also said, and is keeping your hips on track, on railroad tracks, directly at your plant foot, okay? You don't want to be a lot of kickers, a common error that they'll make is their right foot on a right-footed kicker will step outwards towards the right sideline, okay? And it'll open that right hip up, which causes them to swing around the ball. And you either hook it or just be inconsistent, all right? We want our hips and our feet going directly at our plant foot, okay? Another common problem guys might have is rushing their kicks, okay? Have them relax, take a deep breath, and just be a little bit more smooth and balanced with those first 2 steps if this is a 3-step guy, all right? That 3rd step needs to be explosive, a sledgehammer, boom, straight up and through the ball. However, those first 2 steps, they don't have to be rushed. They don't have to be fast. Make them be balanced, all right? Let's talk about transfer of weight. All right. Understand, you want to hit a PAT just like a 55-yard kick, all right? Every time, be smooth and swing as hard as you possibly can, all right? Your ankles should be locked out and slightly rolled forward. A common error when it comes to transfer of weight is guys will dip. Sometimes if they have a problem locking their ankle out on contact, they'll dip their right shoulder as a right-footed kicker under to kind of scoop that ball under. Now understand, anytime you change your hip position by dipping your shoulder on punt and field goal, it changes your swing path as a kicker, Okay. So that swing now might come a little bit more over to the left because you're dipping those hips and changing the angle that you're striking the ball. We want to do the same thing every time, right? Nice balanced shoulders. I've always been told like you're peeing in a urinal, all right? You don't want to get pee in your face. So my eyes are down, but I have a big chest and I'm aggressive to my ball. NKT, nipples over knees over toes. Um, on backswing. All right. A lot of guys, and it's a common misunderstanding that a lot of people think big backswing equals big power, right? Big, sexy backswing. Got your kicking foot in the middle of your back. Hold up. All right. Harrison Butker was talking about this. He used to have a huge backswing there where his toe looked like it was in the middle of his back. However, what he found was that he was starting to hit balls really thin, right? It's not that slow rotation that you want. It's kind of chaotic. It's fast, and the ball could deviate right to left. It would draw sometimes on him because he's coming down at such a hard angle with his kicking leg. All right. We want a nice horizontal backswing. It's more back than it is vertical, right? A nice with your leg facing horizontal to the ground. All right. That way you can get a truer strike on the ball. All right. Um, if your place kicker is struggling with bad rhythm or inconsistent swings, right? Just do a drill that breaks down their swing, whether it's a one step, that's a dry run without the ball, and just work on focusing on that follow through and being balanced. All right. No steps with the ball, no steps with your eyes closed, behind the goalpost kicks, right? Anything that really breaks it down to just the swing. We want them to get used to that feeling of being balanced when they're striking the ball. Um, as far as contact too, I'm probably going to get a little bit more into this, right? The ankle needs to be locked out when you make contact with the ball and through contact. You'll see a common error is for a lot of guys to have their toe almost straight up like this. We want our ankle locked out like you're driving in a car, right? Pushed down like you're accelerating, right? Keep that ankle stiff and locked out through the whole kick. Some common errors, the ball is constantly fading towards the kicking side. All right. Like I said earlier, it has a lot to do with your shoulders and your hips. If a right-footed kicker is dipping his shoulders, he might start pushing that ball to the right. All right. That'll also cause a lazy swing. I don't mean you're lazy, right? When I say a lazy swing, I mean you're not aggressively taking that back hit and slamming the door. I tell my specialists, slam the door with that back hit and follow through directly at your target. All right. And just maintaining the same speed throughout that whole kick. Again, if your specialist is missing from the hash, all right, some place kickers have a tendency to not finish their kick. A right-footed kicker from the right hash, especially on a shorter field goal, he might think he can kind of just push it in there, and he leaves that hip open and pushes it to the right. Okay, I had a buddy, Quentin Brashears. He kicked at Fresno City with me. He was at Fresno State, and then he transferred to Washington State. Kid had a 19-yard field goal, 60-59. Washington State was down by 1 point with 19 seconds left in the game. I believe it was 2016. And he goes out there. It's a chip shot, right? Just pushes it right. And, to me, I would have lost my – this is a little side thing, but how mentally composed he was. He didn't follow through. He didn't bring that hip because he thought he could just chip it in there. But he just ran off like nothing happened. And that's a big thing that I like to show my specialists is just mental composure and how to handle a failure. Keep your head held high and act as if nothing's happened, or you'll get the next one. There will be another shot. I mean, it's so hard to not lose your composure missing something like that. So don't be Quentin. No, Quentin's a great guy. I know we got Coach Mack there at Washington State, so didn't mean to run that little history lesson by you guys. But all right, plant foot position. All right, let's talk about plant foot position. This is something I talked about at Lincoln. All right, most likely, if the ball is not spiraling, it's hitting these weird rotation, bat like a line drive hit. All right, most likely what your place kicker is doing is taking his plant foot and it's too tight to the ball. All right, he's jamming himself, which means he could be too close to the ball or he could be a little bit too deep, right? That happens a little bit less, but your plant foot needs to be about a foot. So I tell my specialists if they're struggling with that, put a piece of tape. When I was at Lincoln during PATs, even before the game, I put a piece of tape down right where I wanted the ball to be, and then I'd measure out about a foot and put another piece of tape down right on that spot. Now, I don't know if that was totally legal, but it gave me a visual representation in the game of where my plant foot needs to be. Okay. And that's something, especially with your younger guys, you can use to make sure they're going directly at that correct spot every time. Contact point and sweet spot. All right. One of my personal biggest problems and a common error I see with a lot of young guys is keeping the ankle locked out before and through the kick. All right. We got two examples, right? We got a wet pool noodle and we got a sledgehammer. Okay. If you hit that ball with a limp noodle, okay, is that ball going to go anywhere? No, there's no force behind it, right? It's going to just kind of roll to the side, all right? But if you have a locked out ankle, that's where all your power comes from, all right? Very hard surface, and you swing that leg and you keep that sledgehammer locked out, it's going to go out the freaking stadium, okay? That's the point. When we make contact with our sweet spot, all right, we want to keep that ankle locked out, like I talked about before. And there's different types of ankle flexion, all right? You could be totally open, or that kicking toe is facing the sidelines. You could be intermediate, where it's a little bit rolled, all right? Your toe is a little bit rolled forward with that big toe in the ground. Or you could be closed and have that big toe directly facing forward with your knee facing forward too. Personally, all right, having your knee facing forward, that close, use a lot more of your quad instead of your groin, okay? But it's whatever your specialist is comfortable with. As far as, if your guy is struggling by hitting, with the sweet spot, all right, he's hitting too high on the ball and it's getting line drives, or he's hitting too low on the ball and he's chipping it, all right? Two easy drills you can use to fix this, all right? You can make a mark on the ball by putting a piece of tape in there. Tape's huge, right? We use this a lot in a lot of stuff that we do. It's just visual representations, all right, for your guy. Or he can mark the ball with chalk, or even take some spit and rub it on that sweet spot. That way, it gives himself a visual representation of where he needs to hit on the ball. And just really make sure you're working on, especially if he's getting bad rotation on his balls, any drill that works on keeping that ankle locked out. So if you're, in your stadium and you have a bag that goes around the goalpost, right? He can do 50 swings on that bag and just work on locking his ankle out. One sec, sorry guys. Locking his ankle out at contact and doing a no-step tap. So he's just working on a swing and keeping his ankle locked out in contact. Or grab a partner and have that partner take a knee, have him have a ball against his knee and that sweet spot facing the kicker who's standing right next to him with his left foot facing the partner. And just same thing, work no-step taps and just work on hitting that ball and getting that feeling of what solid contact feels like, okay? You can tell as a coach when he's not making solid connection with the ball because of the rotation, because of the height, and also the sound it makes, right? If it makes a slapping sound, all right, that's not what we want. We want to hear that deep bass drum sound, all right? When I'm watching film on guys too, I really want to hear that deep crush of the ball, the foot striking the ball, okay, and that sweet spot, all right? And it's really all the mentality and coaching that sledgehammer swing into your specialist. All right, I'm going to show you guys Jason Myers again and his swing. Let's see. I want to mix in some film there so you got a visual representation of what I'm talking about. All right, and this is pretty This is some game footage or some pregame footage of the Seahawks against the 49ers, right? You'll notice he's balanced, okay? His eyes are down on his spot, okay? There's that lateral backswing, okay? We don't want it too high. We don't want it back here, right? Because he's going to strike that ball thin. He's got a big chest. He's peeing in the urinal, right? His eyes are down. On contact, his eyes stay down. Now, this is something I was going to talk about after, right? Your follow through. I've always been told kick 1-2. All right, kick 1-2. That means I strike the ball and my eyes stay on that spot for kick 1-2, and then I slowly and gradually bring my eyes up. Now, what you don't want to do is keep your eyes glued to that spot and then jerk your head up, all right? Because it's going to mess with your body position. Just be smooth with it, all right? Be smooth. You'll notice his leg, all right, his kicking foot goes directly at the goalpost. It goes back to what Dave Akers was saying with those hips, right? We want railroad tracks directly at our plant foot. And then as we swing through the ball, right, our kicking leg is going to go directly at the goalpost. This is a common error I see with a lot of high school specialists, okay? So many times they hit a good ball and then they're leaning back and their kicking foot goes way outside, right? If I'm standing directly behind Jason Myers right now, I don't want to see his kicking leg go on the left side of his body, all right? I don't want to see it swing outside of his body. You'll notice he goes directly at his target, right at the plant foot. Good. And swing. That leg, if you were standing right behind Jason Myers, should be aligned directly down the middle of the goalpost. All right, and this is very clean. I mean, just everything about Jason Myers, but really how balanced and controlled he is on contact is something that is really cool to watch. All right. So that follow through, right? Making sure you're following through directly at your target. All right. And it's cool. The way David kind of put it is a martial arts thing. Okay. There's three different ways you can punch someone in martial arts, right? You can punch and pull back, right? Well, that's direct, but it doesn't have the most amount of power, okay? You could swing around your body and hit someone, right? That has more power, but it's not as direct and accurate as punching someone directly through their chest and keep going straight through, right? That's what we tell our specialists with their leg swing, all right? We don't want to swing around the ball. We don't want to fall off. We want to go directly through our target, have that kicking leg directly in line with the goalpost as they fall through, okay? One problem that specialists definitely think about, all right, is when they get laces, and you've heard the whole, thing, oh, he missed the kick because he got the laces. The laces are at 6 o'clock, okay? Hold up, all right? The only difference between laces at 6 o'clock directly facing the kicker and laces at 12 o'clock is the compression that allows on the foot, okay? He should, as long as this is not a 50 to 55 yard field goal, give him the laces, right? He should still be able to hit that ball and get good rotation right down the middle of the goalpost, okay? The only thing that changes is it's not going to go as far. But if it's, as long as it's not a 50 to 55 yard field goal, if that holder can't spin the laces 180 and get there to that 12 o'clock, all right, leave him at 6. That's something you're going to have to work with your specialist, right? And, I was talking to Alan Tucker at Mississippi State, and we're just talking about a lot of different drills that we like to do. I love doing bad ball drills with my guys. I'll give them a hold where the ball's tilted the wrong way. It's tilted to the left. A place kicker, a right-footed place kicker wants the ball tilted to the right, okay? That way it gives him more of that inside panel, that sweet spot, okay? I might tilt the ball to the right, tilt the ball back, tilt the ball too far forward, show him the laces, and just get him used to hitting a bad ball with a bad hold, okay? And that's nothing that you intentionally work on, right? That's something you might put them on a tee and have them hit 5 or 10, kicks a week. I don't overdo it, but it's something that definitely needs to be worked on with your specialist, all right? If they're missing from the hash, right, just some other common errors, right? Just make sure that he's taking a correct angle back and over, Have him do his steps over and over again. Put some tape down. All right. Most likely, if he keeps missing continuously to the right, all right, have him just mentally change his outlook on the getting lined up, right? Instead of having getting lined up directly down the middle, have him line up a fourth of the way to the left on the goalpost, and really just make sure that he's, you know, making that mental change, and the ball will follow. Okay. Sometimes it's just a mental adjustment that has to happen, and not as much a physical adjustment here. Some other common problems that field goal kickers may face, all right, is in warm-ups, all right, and just tiring themselves out during warm-ups. Really pay attention to how many kicks your specialist is hitting. Talking with Shane is like, guys will start feeling themselves, right? And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna hit from 45. Well, I'm gonna hit from 50, 55, 60, and then they just try to hit a ton of balls before in pregame for what? Okay. The number one problem to me for young specialists is, not understanding how to warm up properly. It's going from 0 to 100. And they might do a few no steps, and then all of a sudden they're out there hitting 45-yard field goals. Okay. You got to understand on the sidelines just how to hit some 50% kicks. We just want to replicate that swing. And to me, that's why dry runs are so important, is we're really just trying to get that swing down and get that same motion over and over again. Some guys will use Nerf balls. That's something you can do with your guys at practice. Let's get 25 full step dry runs in, and just work on feeling that swing over and over again. Another thing is guys, like I said, when we're talking about I'm watching film and I'm trying to evaluate specialists, one of the things that I do is watch how they strike the ball, all right, and how their contact, their foot to ball contact is, but then also their follow through. If I'm seeing a guy that just swings around his body all the time, it's going to turn me off, because he's playing a fade or a pull, and every time he's going to have to make an adjustment due to the wind, he's not going to hit a very true ball. So that's something to watch for in your guys, and then also when you're looking at prospective specialists. Is there any questions when it comes to field goals? Did you guys have anything you wanted to comment on? Cool. We'll move
Actually, Matt Dovenberg wanted me to ask this question. He wasn't able to be in here.
Yeah.
But shot me a text. Hold on, let me pull it up. He wanted to know how you taught the follow through on field goals, specifically if you teach a skip through towards the target as you follow through.
Yeah, no doubt. And so many times it's so much easier to do it without a ball, because especially with young guys, they'll just be concerned with where the ball is going and not concerned about the whole process of things, right? Like I said, the very important things is, boom, our hips are going to dictate where our follow through goes, right? So let's make sure we're taking steps directly at our plant foot to start out with, and not swinging around the ball. When we get to that contact point, absolutely, they should be skipping through. All right. What you don't want to see is that right foot landing before that left foot, because that means you're losing power. A lot of times that right leg will swing, and if they don't skip through, it's going to snap back down on the ground. You're losing power and momentum that you would have going directly at your target. So what I would do with my guy, if I'm trying to work on, a follow through, let's just work on a no step first, where he's literally just standing there. Now, here's the thing too, the problem with no steps, and talk to Shane about this too, is like some guys will just stand straight up and then do this huge backswing that they don't normally have and swing because it's a natural position. Let's kind of lean into it where that right foot, you can place it a little bit farther back, okay, than you normally would, directly behind the ball. Let's move it back a couple feet, and then just work on leaning into it, swinging, and then falling through forward, and making yourself skip and land on that left foot. I would start them out without a ball first, do 5 to 10 reps there, and then put a ball down, all right, and work on just skipping through. All right, we got that down, a no step down. Let's break it down even further. Let's get to a one step where you can take your one step steps, which is either your normal field goal 3x2 back and then scoot up a little bit. Or what I would do is have a partner watch me take my normal steps to the ball in 3x2 and then approach the ball. And wherever that drive step or that right foot after I jab, so left, right, and then plant and swing, wherever that right foot lands, have them put a piece of tape down right there as soon as I swing. Now I can go back and find that spot, and that's where my one step should be at. And then just have my right foot forward, left foot back, and then I'm just hitting a one step. And I'm same thing, working on striking the ball, having a proper plant foot, and then skipping forward and follow through. And a good thing that'll help with that too is giving himself a visual representation. So have himself be lined up with a goalpost, right? Down the back line of the end zone. That way you can see a straight on target, because right? Everything in kicking is linear. And the better we have more visual targets to aim at, the better for them, and the more consistent they'll be. Does that answer that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Anyone else on field goal before I get it going with the punt stuff? Good, man. I love punt, and like I will say at the end, I'll send you guys any you guys that want this PowerPoint here. But we got we got the 10 Commandments. We got the Kicker's Bible, so we got to have the 10 Commandments for the Kicker's Bible. For punt, that is stance, hands, body alignment, steps, eyes, grip, drop, leg swing, contact point, and follow through, right? These are the 10 things that I believe have to go together to become a successful punter, but a consistent punter, okay? Now, at the end of the day, let's get back to the basics, right? You're watching your punter. Let's watch 3 things, all right? How they start out, all right? How they make contact with the ball, and how they fall through on the ball, okay? I'm not worried about any of those other things. Let's minimize, let's get down to the basics here. You don't have to go changing your punter swing left and right. They know their swing. Help them make little adjustments here and there, okay? And at the end of the day, as a coach, you want to accommodate to what your specialist can do. Personally, for me, I struggle getting a lot of hang time, all right? I was a roll rugby directional guy. That's actually how I landed at UT Martin after Lincoln. Was I hit an 80-yard rugby punt, and I had the tie for the record in 2015 for the longest punt because of that rugby punt. So that was something I did well. Now, I did a lot of that at UT Martin, and it was a little bit harder for me to go back to directional, go back and forth, because that's what we called for, and that's just what we did. But I got really good at roll and rugby punts, so we definitely relied on that because that was my specialty. I was good at being accurate and putting the ball in the corner, so we definitely utilized that. Okay, that's what you got to find, what your punter can do, and build your punt unit around that. Okay. All right, let's talk about our stance. All right. Just like for field goal, nipples over knees over toes, okay? You're in an aggressive position. You could power clean out of that position if you wanted to, okay? We're not falling forward, but we are balanced, all right? Again, have a routine when you get out there, whether it's wiping your hands or, licking your fingers, having some sort of, maybe not in COVID times, right? Maybe you air wipe your hands, but just, have something that you get ready to catch the snap, and that locks your brain in, right? As far as hands, everything starts with hands, right? Logan Cook, who is with the Jaguars and was at Mississippi State on the 4th down experience, said, he caught 100 balls on jugs a day, all right? He didn't realize until he got into the NFL how important hands are to a good punt operation. The reason that is that it starts out the whole operation, okay? I mean, you get good hands, you get a good get the ball to your drop point immediately, your operation is going to be so much faster. A lot of you guys, if you have slow punters and slow operation times, It's probably because they don't have good hands. They're catching it inside their body, and it's taking forever to get to the drop point. Catch that ball directly out in front, get it to the drop point as soon as possible, okay? And I mean, jugs, have them do jugs every day. You can get with them, right? Take a ball, get 7 yards away from them, fire that thing, man, underhand as hard as you can. Change the aiming points and make them move their body behind and catch the ball. Right? Get them comfortable being uncomfortable. That's a big thing that we do here. All right. Also, another really good drill is balance catches. Right? Any of you guys have that blue pad? You know, it's like an ankle strengthening thing. Okay, have your specialist stand on 1 foot on the blue pad. Again, this is something you could do, they could do with each other at practice, okay? And stand on one leg, just working on balance, have your knee up, all right? And just work on catching the ball in different spots and getting it to that drop point, right? And that really works their core and their balance, which is so important for punters, okay? But it also works their hands. That's something you can work on with your guys, okay? Body alignment. Shoulders always have to be in front of hips. I mean, it was so important to me. I mean, I'm sure I look dumb, but I have stuck my butt back out there because I really want to keep my shoulders in front of my hips. When punters take long steps, this is common error, okay? They take long steps. Their hips get in front of their shoulders and all their power is lost. All the power is in your hips, okay? So keep in a little bit of aggressive stance, maybe even a little bit more aggressive than field goal. Okay, but my shoulders are forward and I'm ready to attack those steps. I was talking to Matt Carrizosa, who we're going to have on the Iceman Kicking podcast, and he was a Ray Guy finalist. He's working out with Marquette King, who some of you guys remember, Raiders great, is killing it. So what Marquette does a really good job of is getting downhill with those steps and then swinging up like he's going to get over a wall. But I'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about steps, okay? 2-step and 3-step, guys. I used to be 2-step, and then I made the adjustment after Coach Larson said, like, you got to get quicker. You got to get more momentum with your steps, right? 2-step is easy. It's totally fine to use. The one thing is you don't really get any momentum into your steps. It's just catch 1, 2. Okay. They're in a stance, whatever feels comfortable to them. They might have the right foot slightly back. Okay. Or they might be square. That first step is small. All right. That's just 6 to 18 inches. All right. And it changes due to the punter. Okay. The next step should be a yard or 2. All right. The goal with the 2-step is never to be more than 3 yards, okay? A more compact hip position is our goal here, okay? And I talked about the wall here. Now, 3-step punts, right? It might be a little bit more advanced, but, it's whatever's comfortable to your guys. I liked a 3-step because it gave me momentum. Now, the reason why it's more advanced is because guys will make this common error of getting this huge false step, then huge first step, then huge second step, all right? That's a problem. That is a problem because you are getting your hips in front of your shoulders, okay? That first step, which I call false step, okay, is just a pick up, put down. And all it's doing is starting your momentum. I always could time it up when the long snapper, as soon as he releases the ball from his hands, I pick my left foot up and put it right back down as a right-footed punter because it would start my momentum going forward. And then I would take 1, 2, and get the ball off, okay? Again, the goal is, we don't have more than 1.2 seconds to get the ball off, right? And your steps, no matter how tall you are, should not be farther than 4 yards, all right? Especially even as a 3-yard punter, 3-step punter should not be any longer than 4 yards. If you're bigger than 4 yards, right, there's a problem because you're losing power. Steps is something that every punter starting out struggles with, all right? Put your guy on a line, okay, and just make him punt across the field on a line, especially, in the summer and the off season, all right? Have him, if he's a right-footed punter, have him put that left foot against the line and make him walk a line and just take his steps and then drop, all right? That drop is going to go off the right hip, okay, directly off that right hip, but we don't want to see that left foot cross over the right foot because what it does is it it causes you to swing across your body. Now, look, get up and start walking. Okay, even if your feet start out shoulder width apart, your feet, your natural gait is to come closer and closer together. Okay, so they will come closer together. Don't let them cross. All right, and if they're crossing, that's going to cause them to swing across, which is going to get even more problems when they're hitting directional punts left and right. And we'll talk about that in a second. Um, Again, a big thing I use for my punters, man, is just chalk, or like a painter's chalk, or even like you have a thing of shaving cream. All right, it will like destroy the grass, but make sure you're somewhere where that doesn't matter. Do your dry runs with your steps, but have a line that they can't cross. Have a cone there that's about 3 yards that they can't cross. Okay. If you can fix that, they won't be lunging at the ball as much. Okay. Again, are they swinging across their body? And when I say swinging across their body, their right foot is coming across their left ear. And a lot of guys, that's why they'll have problems with that ball. Instead of turning over and out to the right as a right-footed punter, it'll come back and towards them to the left. All right. That's because their steps are crossing, which is causing their right foot to swing across their body. All right. Stay aggressive and just make sure they're walking a line. All right. Get them, especially warming up. I would just start out by hitting balls across the field when no one's out there. Okay. Again, common error is to be too big with the steps. Okay. Also note, make sure they're not on their toes. Right. If they're on their toes, they're falling forward. All right. And they're not balanced. Yes, we want to be almost on the balls of our feet, in the middle of our feet. All right. Definitely don't want to be on the heels. However, we don't want to be falling over each other and not be balanced. And that can come with balance drills that you work on, or just really, taking balance steps. All right. Let's talk about the eyes, the grip, and the drop. I saw we had one question there. Okay, had to run. Cool. Appreciate you, Mac. Let's talk about, the aiming point. What are they supposed to be hitting? Where should their eyes be? Okay. Their eyes need to be focused on that inside panel. That inside panel, the eye in Wilson. All right. That's my target. That's where my eyes are. And I'm looking at that spot directly on the bottom of that left panel for a right-footed kicker. Okay. I'm staring at that the whole time. As far as grip, every grip can be different there. That the picture that I have there is more of with a thumb on the top in the middle of the laces at 12 o'clock and the rest of the hand underneath the ball. I've since more changed to with 2 fingers on top. So I'll have that thumb, my left thumb, at about 10 o'clock there on that white stripe. Okay. I'll have my pointing finger on the right at about 1:30 on the right panel. Okay. And then I'll have my middle finger on that right seam, which is about 3 o'clock. And then these bottom 2 fingers underneath the ball. Okay. The main thing is I don't want to be choking the ball. Okay. I don't want it super deep into my palm. I just want the fingertips really on the ball. When I drop the ball, okay, a lot of guys have a common error with your specialist or punter is lobbing the ball, right? You'll see guys lob it out there or throw it out there. I tell my guys, okay, I'm just releasing my fingers and going straight down to my hip. Release my fingers, straight down, okay? It's almost like you're moving a ball off the table and you're just moving it off the table, right? Releasing it. But I don't want this downward motion. It's just release and then straight down, okay? And just doing a lot of drops, really. If you want them to become better and don't use up their leg, have them do a lot of drops, okay? And that's something that you can work on your steps, you can work on your drops. There's a whole lot of different things you can do without swinging the crap out of your leg, especially when we get into season here, okay? Now understand, even though the ball should be aligned on the right side of your hip, okay? Like I said about your gait, your feet are naturally going to come in, right? So your aiming point could be a little bit outside your right nipple, okay? Because your steps are going to come together. However, we don't want that ball straight over our right leg. And the reason is when you drop the ball, we want to fit on the outside part of our foot, okay? If I can show you my foot here, that inside panel, that left panel of the football should be fitting on that right or outside part of my foot, all right? And as far as the drop, just think of a ruler extending through your kicking hip straight outwards to the ball, okay? As far as drop, a lot of guys will either be straight out with it, which is a little bit too far, okay? Or they'll be too close to themselves. That's a common error that a lot of punters will have. It's a nice manageable distance, right? It's a slight bend in your elbow. We don't want it locked out, all right? We don't want our elbow locked out in front of us. We want a slight bend, okay? And just the less movement, the better, right? Just like I talked about earlier, a batter trying to hit a baseball that's moving, okay? It's a lot harder if his head is moving too. Let's just have that drop out there. As soon as we catch it, boom, have it to our spot and don't move it at all. Get it to that spot, okay? Again, I talked about throwing the ball out there. I'm going to show you guys Matthew Hack, who's Dolphins punter, and just show his form of swinging up and through the ball. Like I said, the ball should feel like a puzzle piece on that outside part of his foot, okay? As for the contact point, all right, guys will struggle with, or common errors with that is the ball going off the side of the foot, right? Or he's hitting a line drive, or he's swinging around the ball and he's not locking out his ankle on contact, okay? As you take that first drive step, okay, first drive step for a two-step punter, or your second step for a three-step punter with your right foot as a right foot punter, right? His ankle needs to be locked out, all right? Locked out before he even makes contact with the ball. If you're waiting to make contact with, or waiting to lock it out before you make contact with the ball, it's simply not going to get locked out and their ankle's going to be turned in. It's going to be that wet noodle effect that we were talking about on punt, okay? As far as follow through, now I got a little bit too far ahead of myself. Let's talk about the leg swing here, okay? I got this from Dave Montgomery, who was a punter for the Oilers, 1994, All-Pro, okay? Set knee snap. What is set knee snap, right? Set knee snap means you're setting your foot back at a 90-degree angle, kind of that horizontal angle. This is your kicking leg, all right, that we talked about in for field goal, all right? Then you're going to knee yourself in the chest, all right? It's not going to be a locked out leg and knee like a kicker would be. You're going to knee yourself in the chest, bring it straight upwards, right? As that knee passes the ball, then your foot's going to snap upward and explode up and through the ball. Let me show you this clip of what I'm talking about, okay? There we go. So here's Matthew Hack, right? Catches the ball out in front. I mean, phenomenal snap, right? That's the first thing you see is like these NFL long snappers are fantastic, right? Right on his hip, okay? A lot of punters do have a tendency to bring the ball down than up, okay? And that's just a personal thing. You know, I'm not going to knock, you know, or overcoach something of the guy that's in the NFL. Okay, look, the ball's right outside of his hip, okay? He set his leg back, right, at about a 90-degree angle. His knee comes up, and then his foot snaps forward, all right? Let me play that one more time. What I really want you to watch, too, is the follow through. Again, it's the railroad track of the hips that are going, okay, he's clearly right here hitting a left directional ball. His aiming point is outside of the numbers, okay? So those hips are facing directly where he wants to hit the ball. Now, this is also another huge and very important point. You got to know your best ball, your A ball, okay? As a punter here, all right, with the left foot, that ball, if he's hitting a good ball, it should tail outwards towards the sideline. So for a left-footed punter going left or a right-footed punter going right, you might take a less drastic step. And to me, that's huge for punt protection, right? You guys might move the block point where they have to get behind the right tackle's hip, okay? Well, if I'm a right-footed punter hitting a right directional, it's going to be hard for me to catch the ball, slide, and then get to that right hip. Or I'm going to have to take a horrible angle where I catch, and I'm also almost, if I hit a good ball, now the ball is going to go out at 30 yards instead of 45 yards. It's something to think about as a coordinator here. Okay. However, he hits a good ball, and it should tail outwards here towards the numbers. See if I can see the ball. There you go. It's a good ball. For a right-footed punter going left now, he's going to have to take a more drastic angle because that ball, if it starts out right here, should tail back into the field of play. So it's just little things like that that are important to think about. Again, common error, right? This is your guys, if they do not have good technique and good form, they're going to struggle with hitting directional balls, because in order to hit that left directional ball, he's got to take concise steps directly at his aiming point and swing left foot to left ear. If he has bad steps and he's stepping over one another, he's going to swing across the body, and that ball that should be on the numbers or outside the numbers is going to come directly in the middle of the field of play, and it's going to be a 32-yard punt. Okay, really got to work those steps, right? And that's a common error on directional balls, is swinging around the body. Okay. Another thing with follow through. Okay, a common error your punter might have is your foot snapping right back down after his punt. Okay, that's a no-no, because you want that foot to go up and through, have that that power going directly up and through the ball. It's a great thing that I talked about with Mac. When we're warming up, okay, and if your punter is struggling with hang time, okay, you might just tell him, all right, he's hit his one steps, he's hit his punt passes. What punt passes are is they're just like a 3.0 ball, but they're really just working on getting that line drive and getting that ball to tail out. Okay, now instead of going full board and hitting his full step punts, have him, hey, hit a ball as high as you can for 20 yards. All right. You don't want to change your technique at all. You don't want them leaning back and trying to just sky a ball up there. Keep that same technique. And what the secret is if he hits his ball as high as he can for 20 yards, well, if he hits a good ball, it should still turn over. All right. And it should still go 40 to 45 yards. If he's doing that, he's going to get a lot better hang time just by mentally focusing on, I'm going to hit this ball as high as I can for 20 yards. Okay. And that's something I like to do in warmups to really work on my hang time. And the distance normally comes with it. Now, if he's changing up his technique, he's leaning back, he's falling, you're not going to get that effect. Same technique, but it's just a mental adjustment that will help your punter get better of a hang time. Okay. As far as directionals, again, I said taking their steps all over the place. Okay. Let's talk about end zone punts real quick. Okay. You're back out of the end zone. First thing you're going to tell your punter to do, make sure you know where the end line is. I would go to the very back of the end zone and then take 2 steps forward. You might say 2 steps. Why do you need 2 steps? Well, there's been situations while we're backed up in the back of the end zone and that ball goes high. So I go back to catch the ball and I take a big step backward. Giving myself 2 steps, all right, is better, because I can actually go and make a play on the ball and still get the ball off and prevent a safety or a touchdown after a block kick. Okay. And then it's just really a 1-step punt. All right. As far as a 1 step for a right-footed punter, right foot forward, left foot back, I'm catching the ball. This is huge now. Catch the ball out in front and get it to your spot as soon as possible. Then, it's really like a punt pass. I'm just really trying to hit it as far and get the ball off as quick as possible. That's important, especially when you're backed up in your own end zone. Okay. Real quick, because I know this is such a, it's becoming such a big part of our game, is really coaching up rugby punts. And I've seen some schools that, they'll have a guy that doesn't really know how to hit a rugby punt. He's just kind of rolling out and hitting a normal directional punt, and that's fine. There's a lot of different punts, okay? But I'm going to briefly go over most of these. All right, so drop punt. What's a drop punt? Those are like the Aussie punts, okay? We got Tom Hackett there when he was a Ray Guy winner at Utah in 2014 executing a drop punt, all right? And it starts off, you know, Aussies, the way they catch and drop the ball and the way they play Aussie rules football is they have that left hand on the top left panel and the thumb and pointing finger on the laces, gripping the laces. And as they're taking their steps out, they catch the ball in here and then they drop the ball outward. Now, that would be pretty tough for us. It's been fun for me to kind of just mess around and work on that because you're hitting a moving ball, but they've been doing that. You know, that's the way they play catch with their dads is they go out and have a kick, right? So that's a way to hit the drop punt. And in the bottom right here, we got Zane Cox, who's a UTM punter, executing a different way to drop the ball. You kind of grip it like you're holding, I don't know, a bottle, okay? That kind of circular drop with your hands, and then you're just releasing straight down. Now, here's the thing when you're hitting a drop punt. You do not want to hit the very bottom tip of the ball. It's going to break your dang foot, and it's going to go 20 yards. No hang time, all right? You want the ball slightly tilted outward away from you, all right? And it should kind of fit on the front of your foot, a little bit higher up on your foot and a little bit more in the middle of your foot than a normal punt, all right? But you're driving your hips through the ball instead of up, like when we talked about normal punts, right? And Marquette King getting up and over that wall, okay? You're driving your hips through the ball and down the field, all right? It should still, if you work on it, should still get pretty good hang time, but it's that rotation that'll really slow the ball down and let it hang up there a little bit more. So something we used at UT Martin was a rolling rugby punt. That's what I got really good at. All right, I'm catching the ball out in front. The thing that we really liked about the rolling rugby is that I could put the ball on the numbers, on the hash, wherever I wanted, and it would go directly to that spot, and then it would roll for extra yardage. So the goal is let's hit it no more than 10 feet off the ground, okay? No more than 25 yards down the field, but get that roll to go another 20 yards. So you just turned a 25-yard punt into a 45-yard punt, or it rolls another 25. The thing is, specialists or returners are scared to come up and catch this line drive when they got everyone running down directly at them and they're 20 yards away from the punt, right? So they let it go, and you get another 25 yards in the roll. It turns into a 52-yard punt. Catching the ball out in front, as we normally do, I would take a step with my right foot first, and it's either 2 to 4 steps. The main thing with your hands is get that ball down already. So if you peek up and you see a rush coming, you can get the ball away just like that. All right. As soon as I catch the ball, it's outside my hip and it's already ready to be strike. Now my eyes are scanning the widest guy as a punter on the outside, and I'm rolling, kind of taking my time. You know, some teams, if they don't have a leverage guy, you might be able to tuck it and run, right? But especially now with rugby, you know, becoming such a big part of our game, there's always going to be someone outside. If you can get the shield to knock them out, there's a fake opportunity right there. But your punter is just rolling and his eyes are down the field. The one thing you don't want to do is if you have a lot of time, just try to blast that ball, right? Hit that ball the same where you catch out in front. I'm striking the very back. If you can see from the picture here, I'm striking that very back third of the ball, okay? And I'm striking like a field goal. I'm hitting it with the sweet spot on my foot, which is the inside arch, right inside my laces. And then when I swing, I'm swinging up and over directly at my target. So when I follow through, my kicking foot's going to be pointing directly down that number where I want to drop the ball. All right. So it's really more of a across my body swing than a straight up and down swing. All right. And you can really whip your hips in there to give it that roll. As soon as it strikes the ground, boom, it's going to roll another 20, 25 yards. Okay. And we like doing that because it was a huge way to catch returners. Now, a returner is going to creep up, right? You hit that ball over and over again. Then you can use a spiraling rugby, okay? And that is more like a normal directional punt where you're dropping it. The big difference with these rugby punts is it's outside your hip. It's way outside your hip, and you're using your hips to slam the door and get it to where you want to go. For a spiraling rugby, it's a little bit outside your hip, but you're swinging right foot to right ear and hoping that ball will turn out about 45 to 50 yards down the field. Now you get more distance because you're rolling out and you have that momentum behind you and your hips to place it right outside those numbers. Just really have to work on pointing your hips at where you want the ball to go, because a lot of guys will definitely swing across their bodies, and then here comes that ball right directly in the middle of the field, right 32 yards away. Another thing that's really worked for me when I used it in the past so many times, when you're hitting spiraling rugbies and rolling rugbies, they'll put a returner at like 25 yards away right on the numbers, and then another one at like 40 yards away right down the middle. Well, shoot, then you can hit a pole call, right? And what a pole call is, it's the same idea. You're rolling out to the right, but you're turning your hips to the left, and you're striking a ball for distance. Really, it's kind of like what you'll see NFL specialists do. They'll drop it outside their hip, and then with their hips facing right, they'll swing across their body and whip kind of a line drive ball to the left and get it to roll another 20 yards. Okay, we're rolling right, but we're really swinging and trying to just line drive it over that guy in the middle of the field and place it on the numbers to the left. So these are different types of punts you can work on with your punter and just kind of experiment with. The one thing I would say though is really make sure that your punter has one go-to, and especially it's tough for young guys. I want them to have one good punt that they can, whenever we need it, it's a tight situation in the game, he can drop the ball 42 yards right in a bucket on the sidelines, right? And just put the ball, be very accurate with it and be able to place that ball, okay? It's fun to get caught up in all this different stuff, but at the end of the day, have one reliable A ball that you can always go back to whenever you need it. Even if the other team's expecting it, you know where to put it on the sidelines. Banana's a little bit more out there, but any questions about punt stuff? Does anyone have anything?
Yeah, I guess another question from a situational standpoint. If you're in a sky, coffin corner, whatever you want to call it, situation, do you prefer the high ball? We kind of went to more of a rolling rugby approach ourselves last year. Kind of what's your approach to that? And if you're hitting that true like sky, trying to get it out of bounds at the 2-yard line or whatever, how do you teach that? Is there any difference in your teaching that?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it really goes back to what can your punter do, and so that's great. Again, when we were close on the, I'm 45 and in, I'm hitting that rolling rugby because that's something I was proficient at. I had done all the time, and in clutch situations, I could put that ball right in the numbers and have it roll out the 4. So yeah, if he's good at a rolling rugby, even if they know where it's going, put a couple gunners on that right side and hit that ball that, hits at the 20 and then gives your team the ability to down the ball inside there. If I'm hitting a sky punt, 2 different ways I can do it, all right? I can hit a normal ball that's just dropped a little bit higher, all right? In my follow through, I'm really trying to think of like taking my energy up instead of out and down that field. Again, that's more thinking about swinging over that wall, right? Or the more conventional and now more used style is that drop punt. Just because it gets that rotation, right, for it to bounce on the 2-yard line and then bounce back, right? So again, You're really just making sure it's out in front of you, all right, not a lot of movement, and I'm releasing and striking it with that middle part of your foot, and the ankle's got to be locked out, and then I'm driving through it. Um, yeah, that was, I like that too, but what a common error with that and what a lot of guys struggle with is they don't get enough hang time, especially if they're not proficient at it. They're hitting this 30-yard 3.3 ball, and it's not doing anything, for as far as rolling rugby might be more consistent. But shoot, if you got a guy with a really live leg and he's worked that drop punt over and over again, absolutely have him let it rip from the 45, from the 50, and drop that punt in there to get that bounce back. Yeah, that's a great question. I like that.
I guess one more question with that. So if you are rolling rugby, and this is kind of probably ran into last year, great if you're on the left hash, right hash, and that's your sky punt idea. Like, how do you do anything to change that up? Especially like, and we didn't get into the situation, but it was something that I turned over in my head because we were gunners over. And now you worry if you put gunners over into the boundary, they're going to creep that guy off and bring him, and now they might be, plussing you to the shield and stuff like that. So, like, how did you, do that if that was the case? You're on the right hash, you wanted to pin the opponent.
Hit a rolling rugby?
Particularly with rolling rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, when we were at UT Martin, a lot of the times what we do is we have a gunner out there, but we might get an unbalanced formation to the left, so they still have to respect that, but then we're all releasing to the right, and we're still, as far as numbers wise, we're making sure everyone's over to the left so they can't cheat someone in and bring them from that right side, and then we're rolling. And another thing too, I might be understanding this wrong, is like, it's tough catching that ball in the right hash and then whipping your hips around and keeping that ball in play. Is that sort of in line with what you're thinking about? Absolutely.
100%.
So, my steps might not be as drastic, or the last two steps, instead of 4 steps out towards the sideline, every time I caught that ball, my hips would turn directly towards the sideline to give that whip of my body. So instead of all 4, I'm really just walking towards that sideline, then trying to whip the ball over. Shoot, I might take 2 and then kind of get on my first 2 steps, I might get more depth back. And then on my next 2, I'm getting wide, and then falling through, I'm getting more vertically down the field, if that makes sense. So my hips are already more pointed somewhere in between the right hash and the right numbers, instead of my hips are pointed at the sideline, or at the pylon.
Got you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Any questions here, man? I really, this has been awesome because I've been here the whole time, and I really enjoyed every one of these calls. So I appreciate you, Coach Roundtree and Coach Stretch, being here. Man, it's been awesome. And if you guys ever need to, reach out to me, Iceman Kicking. We're out on with the Iceman Kicking podcast now, and it'll be exciting. Man, G, we'd love to have you on there. And we're just talking to specialists and special teams coaches, man, just picking their brains is what I love to do. So we'll be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, man. We hitting some TikTok dances. And turn our alerts on, and we'll have a new podcast and a web series episode every Wednesday. Again, if you guys want this, PowerPoint, let me know. And even the Kicker's Bible too. You guys can use the code Ice Cold Deal and get a discount on the book, man. Or if you want the PDF, hit me up and I'll make sure I get you guys a copy. So I really have appreciated the time being on here, man, and it's been an awesome summer because of this.
No, that was awesome, man. I appreciate that. I'll definitely, hit me up. Let me know when you want me to be on, because I'll definitely,
yeah,
it'll be pretty cool.
Awesome.
And appreciate you taking the time, man. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good notes on this. And hey, man, best of luck with everything this year. Hopefully, y'all get off here because, shoot, right now, our season got canceled. So hopefully, I'll be able to watch something on TV at
Oh,
least.
that's tough, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's a bad deal. It just happened on Friday. So, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, who knows? We could all be like that at this point. So, you know, coming up in these next few weeks, we'll really see. It's definitely been tough. We're pretty optimistic over here, but you never know. I don't know, Coach Roundtree, how are you feeling about the season?
Spoke to athletic trainer today, actually, our head guy. He's not optimistic at all, I'll be honest. And he was saying pretty much in the Northeast, things are pretty I shouldn't say contained, but things are looking better. Things are trending in the right direction. But what we were doing back in March, April, is what people are not doing now, unfortunately. And that's why it's getting worse in other parts. And I think that's what's really going to plunge it in other parts of the country.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, yeah, I'm from California, and it's like they're going back to where they were in March and April, and even Tennessee, where I was at before. I mean, it sounds like everyone's going back to the way it was. So that's tough to see.
It's just, I still know you open schools in you said Florida's open schools for 5 weeks from now. We're gonna have a season on top of that. Like logistically, time wise, I'm not sure. I don't know how it works out in my eyes.
I'm right there with you, man. I mean, I'm trying to keep my fingers crossed and stuff. But especially all this work we've been doing, man. I'm like, God, I hope we have a season.
I've been breaking my back for 4 or 5 games. Got the first 4 games broken down the season. Now playing in Illinois, now playing in Indiana now. So I'm like, damn, I got UMass at least.
Yeah. Holding on to UMass. Come on, UMass.
That's all I got. UMass, hopefully UVA, but I doubt that's going to happen also.
Yeah, I know. We play Pitt, and it's like, ACC, I don't know what they're going to do. So.
Yeah.
What are they saying for you guys?
You all can play UMass 12 times.
To us?
Yeah. 6 at home, 6 on the road.
No one's watching that game, G. You saw what happened last?
No, that's good. Good stuff, man. Well, hey, I appreciate the time, G, and yeah, man, I'll put this on YouTube. I'd love to be able to watch it after. So.